Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Kim and this is Stash Stitcher. This week in my sewing room I'm really excited because I have decided to make the Vogue 2000 wrap dress. Now I've made lots of wrap dresses in the past and they've always been in jersey fabric, but I'm going to make this one in woven. And I've been inspired because here in the UK, we are halfway watching a TV series called The Great British Sewing Bee. And in one of the earlier episodes, Patrick and Esme, the judges, set the sewists the challenge of making the Diane von Furstenberg wrap dress. And I was quite excited because I have this pattern already in my stash. And I bought it last year when Vogue re-released the pattern in 2024 to celebrate its 50th birthday. Usually when I start to make something for the first time, I will do a toile, and I'm going to do it for this dress because it's in woven. I need to make sure that I get a good fit. Now, Vogue draft their patterns for a height of 5'5" to 5'6", which is 165 to 168 centimetres. And I'm 5'7", so I know already that I might need to make an adjustment to the length of the bodice. So what I'm also going to do this time is I'm going to use a different way of doing my toile, because normally in the past I would trace the pattern off directly onto calico or muslin, and then once I've done all my fitting I would transfer all of the sizing and markings over onto cross and dot tracing paper. But this time I've decided to use Swedish tracing paper. So I bought some in, I've never used it before, and I'm hoping that it will just save me time. So I will, well, I've done the tracing of the sizing onto this Swedish paper. And then once I've got a fit, I can also use it as my traced pattern. So already, as I've said, I have traced off all of the pattern pieces. So here you can see I've got 3 sizes. So when I looked at the measurements on the back of the pattern, I've ringed around my bust, waist and hip measurement, and I go across 3 sizes. So that's why I've traced the 3 sizes off onto the paper. And I will then stitch up effectively a paper dress. And if I need to make any adjustments, I will do. And then once I've got a good fit in this, I will then trace around that fit and then use this as my traced pattern going forward. Well, that's a theory, so hopefully it will work in practice, but I will take you along on the journey. I'm going to start sewing up this Swedish paper. I'm going to keep trying it on and showing you my progress, and then hopefully when I get to a stage where I'm happy with the sizing, then I can lay it down on fabric and cut. So get yourself settled, a cup of tea or a glass of wine depending on what time of the day it is, but I will see you in a moment. So here you can see my paper dress. And I have sewn up the larger size first, and personally I feel that it fits really nicely on the waist, and it also falls really well from the hips. The centre line goes straight down and the side seams aren't tight at all, so I'm really happy with the skirt bit. The top itself is definitely too big. It's very baggy. So the next stage I'm going to do, because I've sewn this all in the larger size, I'm going to start working my way down the smaller sizes. I'm going to start with the shoulders. So I'm going to start with the shoulder and bring that up so it sort of pulls up some of this bagginess. Then once I've got the shoulders done, I'll try it on again and I'll see what it looks like then. So I'll see you in a tick. Stitched just the shoulders, and I've stitched them at the smaller size that I traced off. And already I feel that there's a smoother look to it. You can see it's not gaping too badly, though just a little bit, but it might be because it's paper. The waist is still sitting okay, but I do feel that because I've pulled it up slightly, I'm just going to keep an eye on the position of my waist. Now, with pulling the shoulders up to get a better fit, I've also noticed that the apex mark, so the original apex mark is here on the pattern, and my apex is nowhere near that, it's down here. So there's probably a good two inches higher than I need it to be, and because of that, the bust dart is actually right up here, so that's way too high for me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the side seams, and I'm going to move the bust dart down to see what effect that has. See you in a minute. So I've made the bust adjustment and I've moved it down, so you can see it's now moved right down and points towards my apex. So I've got right nice fit now around my bust. The front is actually feels like it's following the curve of my body better and laying flatter, and I've got no gaping at the front here. The other thing I've noticed is because I have stitched the smaller size in the shoulder, I'm feeling that my waist has moved up a little bit too much, because I'm doing this thing where I'm just readjusting all the time to bring it back into place, and that's not comfortable. So I'm just going to probably add ½ an inch to the bodice piece. I'm going to do the other side, and then I'm going to put one of the sleeves in to see how this all sort of fits around the arm. Right, so I put one of the sleeves on, and I'm not actually 100% sure about it. It feels very tight right under the arm, and there's not really a lot of ease in the sleeve. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull out one of my old shirt patterns and measure up the shirt sleeve to this sleeve, and just have a look at the ease in both of them, and I might have to do a sort of sleeve adjustment as well. So I'm not happy with the sleeve. It's too tight, and it's having the effect that it's pulling the sleeve down onto my arm, because it's obviously it's trying to find more space. The tightness is right under the arm, and it just doesn't feel right. So I'm taking a step back and had a think about it, and I've decided that I might swap the sleeve out for the B6747. Now that is this shirt pattern, and I make this shirt pattern up all the time. I've probably got about 20 of these shirts in my wardrobe, and the sleeve on this works every time. So I've done a few measurements, and on the Vogue wrap, it the front of the sleeve measurement is 9 1/4, whereas on this one it is 11 inches. So already I have lost 1 3/4 inches on the front, and on the back, on the Vogue top, it is 9 3/4, whereas on this it is 11 1/4. So on the back I've lost 1 1/2 inches. So in total the Vogue dress is 3 1/4 smaller in the arm than this shirt pattern, and that is a hell of a lot of tightness for me, because if I stand up and show you this sleeve in this shirt, you'll see that it fits really nice and could not really afford to go any tighter. So here you can see this sleeve, it just fits really nice, it fits nicely under the arm, there's no tightness at all, so I'm not readjusting or anything. So I think I'm going to play around with the pattern a bit more. So I'm going to abandon my Swedish paper Toile, because It's starting to look a bit tatty, and I feel if I make any more changes on it, it will become so distorted that it will be of no use. But it has served its purpose. It's pinpointed the 3 areas that I need to change. So I'm looking at changing the armhole shape, moving my bust dart down, and also lengthening the bodice. So I have drawn the bodice piece again on my usual cross and dot paper, and I'm going to start working through those changes. So here's the bodice front traced off. So I'm going to make a change to the armhole, bringing the bust dart down and also lengthening by 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to start off with the easiest adjustment first, which is lengthening. So I've traced the 2 lengthening lines, so they usually work perpendicular to the centre front. So this is the centre front line. So I'm just going to move it up so it's better in the camera, and then I'm just going to slice through those 2 lines. So here I've got my spare piece of paper, which has already been extended by 3/4 of an inch. So I'm just going to place that under the pattern and align the top to this line and the bottom to this line, truing up the sides. So when I've stuck the top and bottom to this extension, I just make sure that it's aligned to the centre front, and then I'm just going to true up the sides, as I said, and I'm just going to literally place my ruler at this point here, and then I'm just going to go up and slice into it there. Okay, so that's nice and trued, and the same goes for this. So this point here, probably to the first notch. Okay, right, so that's the lengthening part done. The next stage, I'm going to now move the bust dart down. Now the bust dart should actually be pointed about 1/2 inch below the apex point, which this one does, and it also should be perpendicular to the centre fold. So you can see the middle of that dart, you can see the red line, the middle of that dart will run across through the dart under the apex line and all the way perpendicular to the centre front. So what I've done now is I've actually cut the dart out. So I have cut from the top of the dart leg and the bottom dart leg, and I've cut a straight line across past the dart. So effectively that cut line is working perpendicular to the centre front, so it's cut straight across. And then I do the same for the bottom. So I've cut straight across from the bottom of the dart, making sure that it is perpendicular to the centre front. So I've got a nice rectangular dart, and now this can be moved. So the original dart apex, is here, and my new apex is here. Okay. So I'm just going to remove this apex mark so it doesn't confuse you. So I'm just going to get rid of that with some Tipp-Ex. Right, okay. So we've got our new apex, and the dart needs to be positioned about 1/2 inch underneath that point. So I'm just going to... So that's where I'm aiming for this new dart to be positioned. So I've got my point here, I've got my centre line here, so I'm just literally going to position my ruler there. Okay, So on the dart, there was a line here which was originally there when I showed you where it aligned to the original apex. You need to then place this line along this new line, so it's going to effectively sit there. So I'm just going to put some sellotape on the dart. So with this alignment, I'm just going to bring it to that line, and I'll also need this cut edge to still be in alignment with that cut edge there. Okay. Perfect. So you can see how the dart has been moved. It points directly just underneath the apex what I want, and I just now need to fill this gap in here. So I'm just going to put a piece of paper in and sellotape it all in place. So the next part is to true the dart. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some paper in here because I know that this will probably need it. So I'm just going to sellotape some paper in there. Then the next thing is to bring this dart together as if you were sewing it. And it's a bit fiddly because I've got a camera in front of my face, so bear with me. So once you've got the dart legs joined, you need to just true up the dart edges. So we ruler, and I'm just going to work from the top of the sleeve there down to the bottom of the bodice. So top of the sleeve all the way down to the bodice, and I'm just going to use my rotary cutter to do that. Okay. So once that's done, it opens up, and then you get your new trued bust dart. So that part of the bodice is now complete. So moving swiftly on to the third adjustment that I want to make, which is the armhole. The armhole on the Toile that I made was very tight and it was very uncomfortable under the armpit. So I've decided to actually use a pattern that's been tried and tested, one that I use all the time, and I'm effectively going to just redraw the armhole here and also change the sleeve. So I've got my tried and tested pattern here, and I've just highlighted the edge so you can see it okay. And then I'm going to position it. So effectively the shoulder, I want this to sit in the shoulder, so the shoulder just gets positioned there, so it actually fits quite nicely there. And I don't really want to make any adjustments to the shoulder, I just want that armhole changed. So you can see where the highlighted pen is and where the original pattern line is. This is quite a big drop, there's about an inch drop, so I'm going to just cut, well I'm going to draw first so that you can see. So I'm just going to draw that new armhole in. Okay, so just take the pins out so you can see the new armhole there. I'm just going to cut that out. Perfect. That's the front bodice now complete. Two of these adjustments will have an effect on other pattern pieces. So where the front's been lengthened by 3/4 inch, the back will also need to be lengthened by the same amount. The bust dart won't have any effect at all on the side seam, so that remains the same. but the armhole has had a change completely, so that will need to be changed, not just on the back but also the sleeve. So we'll move to the back pattern piece and make the appropriate changes there next. Right, so here's the back. So I'm going to start off by lengthening. So I'm just going to do what I did before and slice through the pattern. Then I have my 3/4 of an inch extension. Just going to true up the side. So literally from the bottom of the hem to the armhole. Right, so that's the lengthening bit now finished. So we can now move on to the back armhole. So I'm going to, as I did before, use my tried and tested pattern. So this is the back of pattern 6747, and basically I'm just going to pin and pivot. So you can see I've highlighted around this pattern, and I'm just going to position the corner so it meets the end of the shoulder, and I just want to make sure that this part of the pattern also meets the edge of the side seam, because I don't really want to make any more adjustments other than just the armhole. So I'm just going to pin it into place. And I'm going to just draw around it so that you can see the difference once this top pattern is removed. So this is the new armhole, and I'm just going to tip-X out these tailor's tacks, because these won't be needed when I start to insert the sleeve into the wrap. Okay. So now I've got that, I've got my 2 notch marks placed, and I'm just going to cut the new armhole out. So you can see it's quite a big difference there. So that's the front and back finish, and now we need to look at the sleeve. So here we have the sleeve. This is the sleeve pattern from the V2000 wrap dress, and this is my tried and tested sleeve. So you can see already by me just placing the wrap dress sleeve on top, it's quite a bit narrower than my usual sleeve. So what I'm going to do is I'm first of all just going to stick some paper around the wrap sleeve so that I can make the adjustments. I'm just going to do that off camera. Right, so I've stuck some scrap paper around the edges, and I've also gone around the original sleeve in Sharpie pen so that you can see it a bit better, because what I want to do is I want to lay the my tried and tested sleeve on top, and I'm hoping that you can see underneath the wrap dress sleeve. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to move the sleeve head up where the wrap dress sleeve head is, and I'm just going to pin that. And then basically I just want it to sit central, so central there, central there. So I don't know whether you can see the pattern, the wrap dress pattern underneath. I'll just pin it all down, and then hopefully you can see it a bit better. So that's all pinned down. So I don't know whether you can see the Sharpie underneath the pattern there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to trace around basically the sleeve head and just a little bit into the sleeve. Going to remove the top pattern. Okay. So all I'm going to do with the sides, I'm just going to taper them in because I don't want to change the cuff. So I'm literally just going to go from that point and then taper into the bottom hem. So that's why I put all that paper on the side. Perfect. Perfect. Right, so that is effectively our new sleeve. So I'm just going to cut around it. I've also made sure that I put the tailor's tacks in. So remember to do that on both the front and the back as well. Right. So that is my new sleeve. So this should now fit into the wrap dress with the other changes that I made. Well, hopefully you're still with me. That has been a bit of a journey and I've made lots of changes, but I do actually feel a lot happier about now making this dress up in fabric. So the pattern fabric recommendations are chalet, chambray, pongee or surah. Now, pongee and surah used to be silk fabrics, but in modern day they are now made out of natural fibres and polyester. So pongee is a plain weave fabric with a slub texture, and surah is a twill weave with a diagonal effect, but it is smooth with a luster to it. As well as that, you can also make this dress up in single knit like cotton jersey. So it's quite versatile. So it covers both the woven and jersey. So whichever you prefer to make your garments in, this is obviously a win-win. So the fabric I've picked for this dress is the viscose lawn that I got from Fabric Godmother in July. I have enough of this to make this dress up. So I will start working on that now, and hopefully you will see it very shortly. I apologise about the light. There's something's going on with the light, so hopefully you'll see this in a better light. See you in a minute. She's finished and I'm so pleased with her. She has turned out really well and I feel very glamorous in her. I feel like I need to go to a tea party because she's very swishy and elegant. And the weather has changed quite drastically here, so I know after today she will go in the wardrobe and make an appearance in the spring next year. But she has been a delight to wear. So did the changes I made in my paper toile reflect great in my finished garment? Some of them did, some of them didn't. So let me work through them. So first of all, the experiment I did with tracing the pattern directly onto the Swedish tracing paper, I won't be doing that again. It did not work as I wanted. I was hoping that once I'd made all the adjustments, I could use the Swedish paper as a paper pattern and use that to obviously cut out future dresses, but it became so tatty and distorted by the end of it. It was to the point that it was too tatty to use, so I had to actually transfer the pattern onto dot and cross, so I'm going to revert back to that old system. Don't know why I needed to change it because it's always worked. I think I was trying to save myself time. The Swedish paper will be used once I've finished making all adjustments. So like for this bodice, once I've made all the adjustments and I'm 100% happy with it, I think I will then transfer this pattern piece onto the Swedish paper, and it's a nice clean pattern piece. So I think I will do that so it won't get wasted. So the 3 adjustments I made originally were the moving of the bodice dart, the lengthening of the bodice, and obviously the complete swap out of the sleeve. The bust dart I moved down by 1 inch in the end, and the reason why I did that is in the original pattern the apex was way up here, and I was led to believe originally that I could move it down 2 inches, but 2 inches is a lot. So what I did is when I got the bodice piece, I actually measured from the neck edge, so in here, top of the edge, down to my apex, and my apex is generally about 12 inches, and that's what I went with. So when I moved the bust dart down, I stuck to the 1 inch adjustment. So that's what I did on the original pattern, and that has worked out really, really well on the garment. The dart actually points beautifully to the apex, so I won't be making any more changes to that. The other change was the lengthening of the bodice and the back, and I did 3/4 inch, and originally I was only going to do 1/2 inch, and I should have stuck at that, but decided to do a little bit more, and it was just a little bit too much. I think I probably could have got away with just making 1/2 inch adjustment, and I think because I've lengthened it by 3/4 inch, it makes the top a little bit looser than it should be, because I think if it was a little bit tighter it would probably fit better over the bust. But only time will tell, because when I make this dress again I will readjust that lengthening and shorten it to from 3/4 inch to probably 1/2 inch. So the other thing I need to make you aware of is, obviously when I first did the Toile I only cut out a few of the pattern pieces, but as I was going through the other pattern pieces there is a front facing, and this front facing sits alongside the neckline of the bodice, and you need to remember to also increase that by the same length that you've adjusted your bodice by. So mine was 3/4 inch, so this facing was also increased by 3/4 inch, and you need that obviously because this line sits on the waistline, so you don't want it, in my case, to be too short. So the armhole, I was really pleased with the armhole because the sleeve fits beautifully, it's nice and loose, there's no tightness at all. So for the sake of being thorough, I also wanted to check whether the original sleeve would fit my arm. So I did cut it out in muslin and stitched it up, tried it on my arm, and I'll put an image here so you can see, and it was too tight, so I did make the right decision in swapping the sleeve out completely. So if you are making this dress and your arms are a little bit on the big side like mine, just measure the bicep area to make sure that that sleeve fits you, and if it doesn't you can just follow the same adjustment I did if you have a tried and tested pattern that you can use. So let's look at the pattern construction. There were 2 areas that were slightly confusing, and the first one was the bringing together of all the facings. So in the instructions you have this beautiful clear image of all the facings, and that's the back facing, the 2 front facings and the skirt facings, and they are all joined up and look very streamlined. But in reality that's not the case. So we have our back facing, and that joined the front facing beautifully, no problem there at all. But the front facing comes down and comes and widens out, and this would fit onto the waistline and is then joined by this skirt facing, but the skirt facing and the bodice facing aren't streamlined, so you get this bit that juts out here. So because I'd already cut out all of my pattern pieces and interfaced them, it made it a little bit harder to adjust them, but I did. I just basically got my rotary cutter and smoothed off that edge, so I've got a nice streamline facing that runs all the way around the dress. So after I finish this video, what I will do is I will go and retrace this and make sure it's more streamlined, so when I come to make this dress a second time, I will ensure that I get that nice flow to the facing. Now, because I was so flustered by the change to the facing, I totally forgot to put in my collar. So, and I was really annoyed, because by the time I realised I hadn't put in my collar, it had all been stitched, and all the facing had been stitched down and all the seams had been trimmed, so I couldn't really go back and put it in. Though I will make a note of that to make sure that when I go through the instructions to definitely do my collar next time. So the next instruction is the insertion of the cuff. So the instructions show you this beautiful image, but it gives the impression that this cuff, the cuff openings, need to be placed on the inside seam. But if you do that, the cuff will then end up facing the inside of the sleeve and facing towards your body, and will just look weird. But the sleeve itself has a notch. So at the bottom of your sleeve pattern, you have this notch here. Here it is. And that is where the cuff openings need to be aligned. So if you do that correctly, what will happen is your cuff will actually point away from your body, as it should do, but it's not made clear in the pattern, so just be aware of that. So apart from that, the instructions flowed beautifully, no other issues at all. The very last thing I want to cover is just the interfacing, because I don't normally cover interfacing because I always use the same stuff. But in this dress, because this fabric is so soft, I didn't want to use my usual G710. I used instead this this stretch interface. It's got a slight stretch and it's very soft. And when I bought this, I've had this in my stash for a very long time. It is actually called Super Soft, and I can't remember where I got it from. But there are stretch interfacings out there, and I just wanted to use something that was really soft, applied some level of stiffness, but didn't make the bodice so stiff that it would encourage the bodice to sort of pull away from, you know, my bust line. So I used a really nice soft interfacing, so I thought I would just give that a mention. So the bit now is to actually show you the dress. So I have taken a little video and I put that in at the very end, but I'm just going to stand up and show you the dress closer. Even though I've got a really nice fit, I will wear a camisole under this dress because I'm very conscious that it can pull away very slightly and just show the top of my bra. And though it's not a problem, it's not something I particularly like to happen, and I'm really pleased with the fit. It does fit nicely. I did attempt to put elastic into the front of the bodice. It had no effect whatsoever because I had put it into the seam allowance, and obviously once you stitch the seam allowance, it's not going to work because it's on the wrong side of the seam. So I think if I make this again, I will try to put elastic on the facing and see whether that helps, but it hasn't really affected the dress. It still fits really nicely. So I'm going to stand up and show you her. So here she is. She's lovely. She does fit really well across the bust, but you can see it's just a little bit of my camisole here, it's not a problem at all, but I don't know what she'll be like when I'm out and about and moving around in her, but I just feel a little bit safer with a camisole being underneath. So it crosses over really nicely, and I think the bodice would benefit from being just that little bit shorter, so I think I overdid it on the lengthening of the bodice, because I think if I had kept to probably ½ inch length, it would have fit a bit tighter across the bust line and into the waist, but it's got a nice flow, and I'm really pleased. So the bust up comes across, it's really a really nice position, really pleased with that. And also I put the sleeves in, so there's lots of room in here, and it just feels really comfortable. And the cuffs, you can see, are pointing out like they should do, so they've worked really nice, and you get this beautiful really long tie that works all the way around. So yes, she is nice. And obviously you've got the dress flap, so she flaps all the way across, and because the flap starts here and because the flap starts here and runs all the way around to here, I mean, even if the wind caught her, she's not going to show anything off that she shouldn't. So really pleased with her. So that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the content, and if you have, give me a thumbs up, and better still, leave me a comment. I would love to know whether you're going to make this dress, or if you've already made it, what's your experience. The other thing I want to also mention is YouTube have introduced a new button to push small channels like mine out to a wider audience, and it's called the hype button. So if you can go and find the hype button and press on it, I'd be really appreciative. So thank you so much, and I will see you all very soon. Have a fabulous week sewing. Take care. Bye.